To Africa now, where a historic climate summit is taking place in Kenya. Nairobi is hosting delegates from across the African continent. The goal is to decide on a way towards sustainable development. And this is the first such summit in Africa. It's a way for the continent to take charge, instead of always ending up the victims of extreme climate. But the way forward is not clear. Some countries want to bypass fossil fuel-led growth. They want to transition directly to green energy. Other nations, the ones who have massive fossil fuel deposits, do not want that, obviously. They want to exploit their natural resources to achieve economic prosperity. It's a tough debate, made tougher by protesters. People have taken to the streets of Nairobi. They demand an end to energy neo-colonialism. They say Africa's resources should be used to uplift the continent and not as a safety net for the polluting activities of the developing world. Here's a report.
In the fight against climate change, Africa has entered the arena. The Africa Climate Summit 2023 is taking place. It's being held in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. The city has become the stage for the climate battle. But as great as the summit is, it isn't without controversy. The participating nations have yet to agree on a way forward, and delegates from other parts of the world are pushing their own agenda, which has left many fearful for the path Africa will take. You see, the continent has been getting a raw deal. It's home to about 1.46 billion people. That's about 17% of the world's population. Yet it emits far fewer greenhouse gases than the developed world. The US and China are the biggest greenhouse gas emitters on the planet. They are the chief contributors to the climate crisis. And it's Africa that unfairly bears the brunt of extreme weather brought about by climate change.
This continent accounts for less than 4% of global emissions. Yet it suffers some of the worst effects of rising global temperatures. Extreme heat, ferocious floods, and tens of thousands dead from devastating droughts.
The African continent isn't alone, of course. Many countries with negligible carbon footprints suffer the adverse effects of climate change. This is around the world. The collective global south pays for the sins of the developed world. But Africa is emerging as a solution. The continent has the potential to generate massive amounts of clean energy. Solar, wind, hydroelectric, everything is possible in Africa. And some African countries have been harnessing these green sources.
It is quite incredible, significant, that Kenya is now at about 91% renewable, and by 2025 anticipates being at about 95+% renewable. And they're growing. So I think that it's clear that this will be a proving and a testing ground in these next few years for what's possible.
The summit host Kenya is at the forefront of renewable energy generation, and President William Ruto is championing green growth. He has a plan. Let Africa bypass the fossil fuel-based growth of the West. Instead, the continent should move directly to clean energy, develop that capacity, and then sell it to the rest of the world. Not just energy, but carbon credits.
The restoration and expansion of Africa's natural carbon sinks are not just an environmental imperative, in fact. They are an unparalleled economic goldmine.
Carbon credits are almost a transfer of responsibility. A polluting country can continue polluting if it buys carbon credits. It can pay green countries for their share of pollution capacity. This way, greenhouse gases don't really get reduced, they just don't increase. It's better than nothing, but not ideal. However, the system has the potential to enrich green countries, which is what Ruto wants to do. And there are backers for this. Yesterday, the UAE pledged to buy $450 million worth of carbon credits. Other nations like the UK and Germany are planning debt swaps and green projects. Here's what the EU said.
We're not only interested in extracting resources. We want to partner with you to create local value chains, to create good jobs here in Africa. We want to share European technology with you. We want to invest in skills for local workers. This is crucial for the young people.
Basically, they're trying to make Africa the green hub of the world, while they continue their polluting ways. On the other side of the debate are African countries with fossil fuel deposits of their own. Nigeria, Niger, Senegal all have oil. They want to use it to enrich their people, like some of the Arab states have managed to do. There are some African nations who have done this, like Gabon, which is both an oil exporter and a very green country. It has a massive amount of forest cover, a potential way to earn millions in carbon credits. But the recent coup there has shown that this wealth wasn't distributed among the people. Gabon's natural resources were exploited, but not everyone benefited. So some climate activists are against both the plans. They want green energy production, but only for Africa's benefit.
We are here to demand that Africa's energy system must be decolonized. It must be brought out from the hands of the corporates.
We want renewable energy now. We want sustainable energy in Africa now. Africa is capable of clean energy and driving sustainable change towards a better future.
The protesters want climate justice. They want climate neo-colonization to end. They want Africa to benefit first from its resources. But in a world that has exploited Africa for centuries, will their voices be heard?